Hey, this is Jordan from Avid. I'm here at NAB 2019 with re-recording mixer Scott Weber. Thank you so much for the awesome presentation you just did on our main stage. It's, as we discussed, not the sexiest of topics, but sound requirements are essential for mixers to learn, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. If we deliver our show and it's not on the right specs, it's certainly not going to sound the same as what it did when we were in the mixing stage. So it's important to understand what those specifications are so that we get our loudness right, so that it sounds correct when the audience hears it on television.
And in your presentation, you actually showed a few samples that different networks and different content providers have actually different specifications. Why would that be?
It's interesting you should ask that, because it's all based on the recommendation of A85, which was a committee that got together to give recommendations on how to mix television for the right loudness. And then later after that, the Calm Act was passed, which was actually a legislation so the FCC could regulate the level of sound on television. And basically the problem is commercials were too loud, our programs were too soft. And so they passed that legislation. Well, the problem is that different networks, they have different ways of interpreting that. So on one network, they may measure the entire program. Another network may only measure each segment or each program between commercials. And so it makes a big difference on how you mix, because your loudness could be a lot different or be off, and they're going to change it for you to put it in spec if you don't do it from on the mix stage.
So when you are going about a mix and you're monitoring the level, do you find it easier to, what's the process? Do you find it easier to mix the scene and then go back and check the levels, or are you aware of the levels the entire time you're building the scene?
You basically have to be aware of the levels the entire time. So what we do on our stage is we set the monitor level at a place where we know that we're going to hit the correct target loudness. So in our case, we mix at 82 SPL. We know that if we're mixing at 82 SPL, our ears just know that that's the right level. And we confirm that by looking at our loudness meters, and typically we like to look at the dialogue loudness meters. And it's just what we do constantly through the mix. And of course, you can't help that you're going to have an action scene, and there's going to be gunshots, and there's going to be loud music, and then that throws the levels off a bit. But being aware of that, we can sort of keep track of it as we go.
So you do kind of develop an ear for, oh, I know that's going to be too hot, like you can tell that it's going to be too loud?
Absolutely. You talk to any film mixer, television mixer, they know when dialogue's at the right level. And you sort of just tune your ears for that. And once you've set that, you don't even really have to look at the meters. You know whether you're loud or soft.
You also mentioned sort of television versus theatrical. So do you have a different approach depending on which one it's going to be?
Absolutely. In theatrical, there's much more dynamics. So they actually have higher playback levels, which in actuality actually makes your mix lower. But it also can get louder. So you may mix your dialogue in LKFS, which is a loudness specification we talked about. For television, we want to hit -24. So that's going to be here. If I was mixing a film, if I was mixing at full reference level of 85, it would probably land at 27, which is about 3 dB lower. Well, that also makes it, if our peaks are at -2, which is almost to zero reference, that means explosions are going to be bigger, music's can be bigger, but when the dialogue's playing down at this level, it's going to be at the correct level. Where in television, it's less dynamic. So when we raise the dialogue level to here, -24, some broadcasters or network providers even cap the peaks to -6. So you can see and now all of a sudden our range is here, and they do that for a reason, because in your living room when you're listening to a show, you're not listening to it in theatrical level, and you're probably not listening in a home theater environment, you're probably listening to your stereo speakers. So these specifications were really made so that the content we mix on the mix stage is going to sound the same sound good and sound right at home.
Do you have a favorite type of scene to mix?
Well, I'm primarily a sound effects mixer, so of course I like a big action scene with lots of gunshots and cars and all that kind of stuff. It makes a lot more fun. Although I have to say, it's probably more challenging to mix a quiet scene. So places where the dialogue is subtle we have to pay more attention to making the backgrounds and the ambient sound right, and creating environments and stuff. That has a whole nother level of expertise and challenges, and makes it fun as well.
Well, thank you so much, Scott. Come on down to Avid, South Upper Hall, booth 801. You can catch Scott Weber, re-recording mixer, on the main stage and see what all Avid has to offer in 2019.